Welcome to the second season of Empower Your Magical Self. I'm your host, Leah Wellborn, the Mystic Autistic. I created this podcast because I used to be very, very sad. In fact, for decades, I hated being alive. In 2020, I was touched by grace and I decided to live in joy no matter what that took. The result? I empowered my magical self. Along the way, I was diagnosed as autistic at the age of 48. I also became a Reiki healer and an ordained minister. My mission now is to continue to empower my magical self and to help you empower your magical self, whoever and wherever you may be. In each episode, I'll be talking with someone who has helped me empower my magical self. I'll ask them about the experiences in their lives that have shaped them, and I'll ask each guest to answer one question. What is magic? Join me for all 13 episodes of Empower Your Magical Self, Season 2. Join me and my guest, Jazmine, aka Witchy Adams, for the 7th episode of the second season of Empower Your Magical Self. Hello, and welcome to the 7th episode of the second season of Empower Your Magical Self. I am your host, Leah Wellborn, the Mystic Autistic, coming to you from here at Shea Mystic Autistic in Aurora, Colorado. Thank you so much for being here. How are you? This week has been weird, to say the least, but I'm sovereign and you're sovereign, and we move on. I have big news this week. My book is coming out. I have a book coming out that is geared toward helping you quit whatever habit you have that you might like to quit. Be it drinking too much, eating too much sugar, gossiping, gambling, porn addiction, whatever kind of thing you have that you would rather not have, or maybe not just have it to the intensity that you have. This is a handbook for helping you quit that. It's called Empower Your Magical Self, so you'll be able to find it very easily. Empower Your Magical Self with a 1-month habit break, a handbook for reclaiming sovereignty. It is not very long. It's about 85 pages long, which is pretty much, if you think about it, the perfect length to get you through a month. It has an exercise or a prompt for every day of a month, and it's got the psychology and thinking behind it. We're talking about polyvagal theory, somatics, talking about Jungian theory, metaphysics, lots of ideas behind all of it. Everything that went into this book. Everything that I talk about is something that has helped me kick a habit, either coffee, which I kicked a few years ago, or booze, which I completely quit last year, which was huge for me because I used to be a big drinker, daily big drinker, and I don't drink at all anymore. So this handbook can stop you quit any habit at all. It can help you curb a habit. It can help you just take a break from a habit if you just want to do like a dry January thing and make sure that you are able to do it. This book is for you. I hope you'll check it out. It will be available on Amazon sometime this week. So I'm not exactly sure of the date, but do look for that, and I'll check out on my socials, and I will be hollering that out because I'm out just in time to help you quit whatever habit you might want to quit or take a break from it for the new year. So I encourage you to check out my book, Empower Your Magical Self with a 1-month habit break, a handbook for reclaiming sovereignty. Today, I'm extremely chuffed to welcome my guest, Jazmine, who you may know from her as Witchy Adams. I actually really do love this woman. I love all my guests, but Jazmine and I have become friends. I think I've sort of forced my friendship on her, and she has accepted it graciously. And I've discovered Jazmine on TikTok. I used to think of her before I got to know her and know who she was. I thought of her as the Buttercup Woman, because she would make these really wonderful videos, and sometimes she had her bonnet on and sometimes she didn't. She'd be sitting in her yard usually, which is this beautiful place with trees, and I think she'd sometimes would be in a porch swing. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, and she'd say like, Good morning, Buttercup, or hello, Buttercup, or something. That was how she would start. And I would think, oh, good. And I would just get myself ready to listen to whatever she had to say, because she has this very direct and authentic way of speaking. And I just really enjoyed how she presented herself. So I reached out and invited her on the show, and we've become friends since then. She lives in Alabama, so across the country. I haven't met her in real life, but just adore her. She is so wise. And as we'll talk about here in this episode, we exchanged services. I gave her a Reiki session, a distance Reiki session. And in exchange, she gave me a reading, which is just really beautiful and long and involved. She recorded it. So I took it and transcribed it. I was going to say transcribed it, but that's not right. Transcribed it, and so now I have it and I refer to it, and I really encourage you, if you're a person who is into readings and that sort of thing, to reach out to her. She's extremely approachable. She will tell you how to reach her at the end of the show, so you have to watch it all. Ha. So I really do hope that you will enjoy this episode with my friend Jazmine of Witchy Adams, or you might know her as Witchy Adams on social media. One of the many things I love about Jazmine is that she's autistic like me. And so we have a simpatico that I don't have with a lot of other people. So we talk in this episode about being autistic and about spirituality and how the two inform each other. And she's just very clever and very lovely. She's a lovely person. So please enjoy this episode. I'll come back at the end and tell you about next week. Hi, beautiful.
Hi. How are you?
I just realized there was a stick in the background because I found a cool stick back when I could walk. And I was like, that looks weird. I have a stick back there. And then I recalled our whole conversation about my suit being the wands.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to leave the stick. But I'm going to turn the stick over because I think it's more attractive this way.
Yeah, you have to leave the stick. It's cute.
It is cute, isn't it?
It's white, so is it birch, or am I wrong?
You know, I wish that I knew. I'm not good about identifying trees. It's not a skill set of mine. When people do that, I'm like, how do you do that? How do you know that?
Yeah.
You know, they're like with such certainty. That's an elm. That's a Dutch elm. Like, okay, could you tell me why? No, just no.
I just know
okay.
Just like when people different birds just by how they chirp.
Totally. I don't even know by looking at them.
Right.
I know like two birds. Yeah.
I just heard.
Well, how are you, darling?
I'm
how
good.
Was your day?
I finally got to sit here and do this. And I sat outside because if I'm going to be coming out of my comfort zone, I'm going to sit in my comfort zone.
I love it. And I love your shirt. You got the lunar influence going on. And that's fantastic. And so I'll just start by saying I am just a fangirl of you. That's how I know you. I found you probably on TikTok, I would say, because I don't do the Instagram so much.
Right.
And I have followed you probably over a year and just have been consistently excited when your videos come up because you're not saying the same old thing that other people are saying. And you're very authentic. And I was thinking about it this morning about how I was going to say, I don't ever feel like I'm being hustled when I watch your videos.
Thank you.
And I was going to say, she's not a hustler, but I don't know, maybe you want to consider yourself a hustler, but there's a difference between, okay, I mean, because there's different shades. There's like, I really hustle, I get things done, but then there's like, no, I'm on the hustle. So anyway, just to say, I always am struck by your authenticity. And then I had the absolute blessing of having a reading from you very recently, just yesterday, and was so incredibly moved. And
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we can connect to spirit like that for other people and for ourselves, but it's a lot easier to read other people, I guess, than it would be to read myself. I'm glad that, thank you for trusting me. It takes a trust for both of us.
For sure.
So I'm really happy to hear that it went well and that we were able to do
Yeah.
that.
It went really well. And, you know, for the people who are listening who maybe have never had a reading or don't know what to expect, I find that every reader that you get a reading from, you're going to get a very different experience. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's part of what makes this side of life so great, is that it embraces the truth that one size fits all is a lie.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest lie you'll ever be told. And in spirituality, my hope is that that is expressed by the practitioners and healers in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe speak a little bit to your personal spirituality. Have you always been a very spiritual person?
You know, at one point, I think I would have said no, but yes. I grew up with my grandmother, who was, you know, a little island lady from Puerto Rico, and she was, you know, we were Pentecostal Christian, but now looking back,
I just want to stop and say that's a big one right there. I grew up in Texas around a whole lot of Pentecostal Christians, not necessarily of the Puerto Rican variety,
yes,
but that's a lot.
we were, yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I was growing up with her. She had stopped going to church. And looking back, a lot of the things I do now in my spiritual practices, I learned from her. She made her own holy oil. She would pray and cleanse houses. She, you know, she'd have me massage her back at night and be like, you have healer's hands. You know, things like
cool.
She trained me in such a way that when I finally got into my own journey and I found my own way, it was like, I'm doing all the same stuff I was doing when I was a kid. Right. So I guess to answer your question, yes, I think I've always been. Of course, you know, as life goes on and trauma and all that other stuff, I was definitely separated from it for a long time. Mm-hmm. But here we are around like 25, 26, you know, when your brain fully develops.
Right.
I stopped denying it for myself. And
what year-ish, I'm curious because of comparing it to my own personal path, what year-ish
25 was that? Like 2016, 2017.
Okay. For me, I was always spiritual, but man, I had that huge this is life or death renaissance when it was 20, right around COVID.
Yeah.
4 years ago. Mm-hmm. So
a lot of people did.
Right. So was there a particular moment you mentioned when you were 25 or 26? Do you remember a precipitating incident or anything that was like, oh, here it is?
Not really. I feel like I had finally, you know, I'd met my husband. We were living together. I finally felt safe in my environment, and it just kind of like organically just started happening. And then I had some friends that started dabbling in tarot, and, you know, through them, I started finding other pages and just kind of just unfurled that way. Right. The second safe enough to let it unfurl. But around 20, you were coming into like a big spiritual awakening, and I was completely closing myself off. 1 second. My son is coming this way. Yes, you can give lollipops to everybody. You can give one to your aunt too. Hey, babe, remember that I was going to sit with my friend? Oh, yeah. Okay, so revert all of your questions to your aunt, okay? Just ask her. Okay? Thank you.
That's funny. Lollipops for all.
Lollipops for all.
That's what you do. Ask when mom's on the podcast. Ponies for everybody.
Well, if you could hear him, that was my 10-year-old.
And he's having his birthday party tomorrow, right?
We're going to go to trampoline park. Have you ever been to one of those places?
No, but I have friends who have been to them, and I love trampolines. So, but it sounds like a nightmare to me. But yeah,
it's intense. On the sideline, like, are those two kids are about to hit each other? Like, it's so
for sure. I can't even believe. I mean, the insurance. Not to be crass about it, but the cost of the insurance must be like a gajillion dollars a month, because
when you gotta go, when I take my kids somewhere and I have to sign a waiver, I'm like, wait, maybe we should go home.
You know, they might not come home the same.
What is this for? But yeah.
Saying like in 2020, you were kind of closing off maybe or something like that?
What?
Okay.
I completely, around like 2018 or 2019, I kind of just said, nope, I don't think this is what I should do. I'm a big, I can talk myself out of a lot of things.
Sure.
And I did. I talked myself out of being out, like being a spiritualist online, being out here. I felt like a lot of the spaces were very inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's the tism or whatever, but I feel like if we are going to call ourselves healers, we should act like healers. And a lot of the things that were going on behind closed doors just like completely floored me. So I completely like closed myself off. And around 2020, that was right, like I went into my Saturn return around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very a big withdraw, go back in kind of moment. But for a lot of other people, it was a moment where they all woke up, and that's beautiful to me.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It was really wild. And for like that first year or so, I didn't really want to say it because like, oh my God, yay, so many people died, but look at me, so holy. You know, it just felt so twisted and like opportunistic, but in the same token, it was like so actual and magical. And I think that I share that experience with so many other people. And having seen that, I feel more open to talk about it now. Because it's not like it's something that I wished would have happened. It wasn't like, gee, I wish there would be a plague so I could get spiritually elevated, you know?
I corrected a lot of people. It forced them to reckon with themselves.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think it did open up a lot because we were home. What else was there to do?
Right. And I've always been a person who is so much more comfortable at home than anywhere else.
Same. Yeah.
And so perhaps you had that same experience of just like, oh, hey, now I can do what I want to do and not have everybody be like, you weirdo, what's wrong with you? You know, I was like, I know how to do this. Anybody want to talk about having fun by yourself at home? I'm the lady to talk to because I got this down. And all of a sudden, people were making videos and just like, here's how I live my life. And it was just such a crazy moment of revelation in so many ways. It was really cool in ways and tragic in other ways. But wow, I don't know if we'll ever be the same, huh?
We will. I honestly, that collective tragedy, like you said, that collective trauma, so hey, I kind of want to do this and I kind of want to talk about this and I'm open to this now. It was like, I don't think we'll ever be the same. I don't think we'll know what it's really done for all of us for like years to come. We're going to keep discovering things that happened in 2020 for us.
Probably not in our lifetime, really, because I mean, if you think about it, we still are like, oh, hey, look, the Spanish flu, there was this and that we didn't really understand. We didn't put it together until we had this plague.
Right.
And all of a sudden we're like, oh, now I see how that kind of, you know, up.
No, you're right.
Yeah. So tarot, is that your main like, I don't know, method or whatever of divination or
it's my favorite method of tarot. It's a good, for me, you know, when I sit down when I wake up, but when I sit down to the messages start coming in, especially if it's something someone has had to hear for a while, or their guides are like, hey, yeah, okay, let's go through you for this. So tarot helps me kind of organize that. And helps me kind of focus it. If not, people will be getting 30 to hour long like messages from me with a bunch of stuff. But it's a good way for me to kind of focus my energy on something. And it's beautiful. I love tarot. I love different decks and stories behind all the archetypes. Oh, it's beautiful to me.
Yeah, for sure. So are you a reader who is like the let's say Queen of Wands, for instance, means this, Emperor means this, or are you more like loosey-goosey fluid when you're reading? Loosey-goosey fluid? Yeah.
For some people, it seems to be that is best for them. So going every card and what it represents. And then for other people, it's like, I'm not really paying attention to the cards. I'm paying attention to whatever's coming. It's kind of both. it changes from person to person though, how the messages come out. It's I like it. It's really cool. But no, I'm definitely.
So as a person who's maybe listening to be in like what is she what okay, so I get it. I mean, I'm not in your head, but I, as a person who's a healer and who lives in this environment, I get it. But when you say the messages come through, what is that? What do you say?
What are the messages come through? Sometimes I hear a phrase or something, or I see something. I like sense, like I did a Reiki healing session for somebody, and in their throat chakra, I saw and felt the ocean. So I sat there for a second. I was like, why am I feeling that? And, I kind of started talking about like, what would that mean? And what does the ocean represent and stuff like that. So sometimes it's like one phrase, sometimes it's one word. Sometimes it's this one time I did a reading for my friend and I said, you just gotta, when the waves knock you down, you gotta just get back up. And that was something her father used to say to her. And I did not know that.
Interesting. Right. Yeah.
So, and it's funny. I should record myself. Sometimes when I sit there doing a reading for someone, I'll second guess myself. Like, maybe I didn't say this, or maybe what is this thing
Right.
coming out? But I'll start talking. And usually those moments are the things that people need to hear the most.
Right.
That I don't even understand, but
Right.
they do. It's very interesting. It's like, it's a channel.
It
Really.
is a channel. Yeah. And it's like this comes up with so many of the people that I talk to, because everybody I talk to, I consider them all healers, whether they're like a spiritual musician or, a writer. It doesn't necessarily have to be a reader, a hands-on Reiki healer or whatever, but everybody who I talk to is a healer. And a common theme among many is this trust and openness of like, I have to just like step back and say, I don't know.
Right.
And that's a really difficult thing to do.
It is so difficult. I have an opening prayer, again, that kind of tweaks by what the person needs, but I always end it with, let this be more of spirit and less of me. Let this be more of spirit and less of me. So that human part of me doesn't stop me from saying things that I don't understand.
Right.
Because it's not for me. it's for the person in search. So.
And you and I have talked about guides, and I think you may have mentioned them offhandedly here. Have you always been connected to your own spirit team, your guides? I mean, I know that you have big picture, but have you been like aware? Have you been tuned in? Has that been a conscious part of your life?
No, I think for a long time I felt very alone. Very in my own, I'm a very reserved and withdrawn person. So like my inner world is extremely rich, but on the outside, I kind of just used to, not anymore, but I used to be very stoic and I felt very alone for a long time. I think the first time I really felt my guides, felt my ancestors. Oh my God, it was so overwhelming. It was so like all this love and all this guide. You guys have been here this whole time. You've been guided. You know it. It was super overwhelming, but no, I was completely I felt completely alone for a long time, unfortunately.
So what was that? What opened that door? We're talking about openings. What was that moment? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. I have a friend. Her name is Janice. She is a high priestess in, I think, Santeria, and she knows a lot about ancestral worship, and that concept of honoring your ancestors and having an altar for them where you sit with them and stuff like that really spoke to me because my grandma's gone already.
Right. Okay.
Or my mother died, so any chance to connect with my grandmother I was gonna take
For sure.
and it just really opened up to other ancestors and people I never met, and spirit guides. My spirit guides, some are known and some aren't, every once in thing. A lot of the time they want me to kind of trust myself. So they'll hang back a little bit. But honoring your ancestors and ancestral worship was really just resonated so deeply with me. Like I give them their coffee every morning. I say hello, like stuff like that. It became kind of a routine for me. I loved it. I loved it. And I love it now.
So I was going to ask you about spiritual habits you have. And that sounds like, I mean, right there's a big one. In the morning, you do like an ancestral, I guess I would say prayer, maybe. I don't want to put a word in your mouth, but
Prayer's good.
Uh-huh.
I have a little prayer book now. I started like 2 weeks ago. I couldn't find my journal, and I was like, I need to write something down. And I found this other journal, and I was like, let me just write a letter in this journal. This journal has to be different. And it turned into like a prayer journal, like out of nowhere.
Cool.
And it's a way to connect that way too. Because, sometimes our energies are too all over the focal point. I love focal points. But yeah, habits. Prayer is a big one. Spoken word, like, I'm gonna have a good day. Today's,
affirmations that,
all that stuff are really. But also, sometimes I'll just talk to myself like, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna get up. We're gonna do this. It's one of those things where, like, for me, a spiritual habit is taking care of that inner person that is anxious and overwhelmed.
Right.
I feel like life is a spiritual habit. I feel like it's in everything,
Absolutely.
There's never Tuesday, we're going to do this. It's more like every day opens up and you can learn and do and all that stuff, I guess.
I agree with that so much. And I was talking with Monita last night from China, who's over there for Kung Fu camp.
Which is cool.
What? She said, oh yeah, my lease in London ran out, so I thought I'd go to Kung Fu camp in China, as one does.
Love that.
I couldn't get over that. I was like, okay, I could talk about this the whole hour, but
tell me more.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so we were talking last night about a spiritual diet, and not just a spiritual diet, but I like to call it a soul lit. I don't do anything that doesn't light my soul on fire. And sometimes that might be with a tinge of anger if it's like toward an activist way. So I'm not talking about a love and light, rose colored goggles, but I'm talking about not doing anything that I'm apathetic about. Not doing anything that, like, fuck this. I don't want to get up and drive across town to sit at a desk and make money for some putz, I mean, I don't do that shit anymore. And I know people say that's easy for you to say, but it's not easy, because I got fired, and it's like, I mean, it's really hard, but I made that decision. I'm not going to play that game anymore. And so I live by soul lit now. You mentioned a spiritual diet. It's so important, isn't it, what we consume, not just, dietarily, physically, but also what we watch, who we talk to, what we think about. And it's so easy to be overwhelmed by the dominant cultures. Bam, bam, buy this. This is terrible. This is horrible. Aren't you upset? Don't you feel terrible about yourself? Blah, blah, blah. So for people,
you're selfish.
Right. So for people watching this who are trying to maybe get out of that situation where they're being overwhelmed and they're feeling bombarded and they feel like they can't live a soul lit because they have the fucking bills to pay and they have this and that, what would be some helpful words for you that you could get them maybe inspired to make that choice for themselves?
Much like what you said, I'm going to piggyback off of what you said. When people tell you it's easy for you to say, it is extremely difficult to trust something you don't see, and trust to go against what we all have been conditioned to know. So if there are feelings of frustration and confusion, of course there are. I think the first step is to stop judging whatever is coming up, because it's coming up for a reason. Whatever feeling it is. My thing, you say soul lit, I feel like whatever puts me in autopilot is something I no longer can be around. I can't
eject autopilot.
Yes, I cannot. So if I feel like I'm only saying yes to make somebody happy, or I feel like I said that thing so I would be liked, whenever those little triggers, those little things come back up, it's a invitation to go inward. It's an invitation to go, why do I feel like I can't be myself in this moment? It is a lot of, and it's exhausting, but it is a lot of checking in with yourself. And when you've never checked in with yourself, it feels crazy. It feels like, what am I doing? I'm sitting here talking to myself and this is weird. Push through that. Like, this is weird and I shouldn't be doing this, because that's that conditioned side of our brains coming out to protect us and all that other stuff. Push through that feeling, understand that confusion and all that anger, all of that is righteous, all of that is real, and of course you're feeling that stuff. So when you stop judging it, you are able to start finding the sources of why you feel that way. Oh, I'm anxious every night and you don't know why. Well, it's because you have the news on till 12 a.m. or you're watching this or that. When you start peeling that back, it does open up for you. But if you're continuing to judge every feeling that comes up, you're never going to have that moment.
That's
You're
exactly right.
not allow yourself to have that moment, because never is used. But
yeah. And that leads me to something personally. This is a very personal thing. But for me, one of those things was I drank a bottle and a half of wine every day.
mm-hmm.
I could not feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to feel those feelings, know. And I did that for years and years and years and years and years and years. And no judgment. I'm not saying, I'm not casting aspersions on anybody doing that, but I'm saying personally, it was impossible for me to spiritually elevate when I was numbing myself to that level. Mm-hmm. And so I just want people to be aware of these things that sometimes we think of as self-care, but it's actually self-sabotage, which is what I did for a long, long time, because true self-care can sometimes be a bit of a bitch.
Oh my God, it is. It is. Yeah. And you've numbed yourself, because I also numbed myself for a long time. When you numb yourself for so long, that first hit of your feelings coming back, it's hard. It's rough. Healing sometimes is rough. It's not all, it is fun, and coming out of it, you feel better, yes. But it's like resetting a bone. I always talk about it that way. It's like, your bone was broken, they reset it, and you're healing that again. Of course you're hurt. My poor baby.
And I have a broken knee right now, so I can totally speak to that. Yeah.
That's like, spiritually, it kind of feels, what do you think? When you finally come into yourself and you're not numbing, does it feel the same or similar to a broken bone?
I will diverge a little bit because you ask, and because we talked about this just briefly in regard to my reading. This broken bone has been like the biggest fucking gift, and it sucks, and I hate it, and I wish it had never happened, but on the real, I'm glad it happened, and I know it had to happen, and it's made my life so difficult. But it was literally like, bitch, sit your ass down and listen and just be quiet and deal with what your body has to tell you for a minute, Miss Big Brain, and it's so funny because, I did roller skate. That's like my thing. I love it. I'm not good at it at all, but who cares? It's really fun for me. But I had come to the realization through roller skating that even though I'm completely left-handed, completely left leg, just absolutely dominant with my left side, my right leg was doing all the work. You're left-handed too?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. When I was skating, it was like my right leg was basically just like pulling my right leg was pulling my entire body along, and my left leg was just kind of like, yeah, it was so ridiculous. And it really made me come to realize how the imbalance between the sides of my body has just been absurd. And I've always made jokes about, like, you still there, dear?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. No worries. I've always made jokes about the right side of my body being basically useless. It just hangs there. It doesn't help me at all. Okay, well then let's break that right leg and see how you get along without it, is basically kind of what happened. And it has just reset everything for me. I feel like the struggle within the halves of my body has kind of come to this forced truce that is being reflected in my whole reality of this resistance that was going on within myself. So it's this tremendous gift that I never, ever, ever would have asked for. But here it is, and it's completely changing my life. So yes, in short, I do agree that coming into that spiritual healing is like this resetting of a bone and healing of a bone.
And that's the thing for people who do listen. It's spirituality isn't this big, well, it is woo-woo sometimes, but it isn't this big thing over there that you can't have, or that it changes. Like you have to, you don't have to, life is going to happen is what I'm saying. And with spirituality, it just helps you navigate the shit that's going to happen anyway.
Right.
Like your bone breaking. It wasn't something you expected, but you just called it a gift. You know, a few years ago, you would have never called that a gift. Like that's what spirituality does. What you vibe with, whatever feels right. That's the gift it gives you, is to see that, okay, yes, this was not a thing I expected. This really has put things, you know, into a different type of perspective, but I feel free and I can see how this is fixing this and this and that. And I think that's beautiful. I love that. That it does that.
It's just I don't, you know, you said 15 years, even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle this.
Right.
I mean, I would have survived it, but I wouldn't have thrived from it. I would have been embittered and bitchy and angry and why me.
Yeah. And you would have every reason to. Your leg was broken.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But now with the side, you can be like, yes, I'm angry, but I'm not gonna. Ooh, a butterfly just went by. I'm not embittered by it, because you haven't. I don't know. Well, you might have personally, but you've done really well from what I've seen.
Talk to my mom about it.
Yeah. My mom. Yes, but it's one of those things. You have come online and yes, this thing has happened, but here I'm still having joy. Here I'm still finding joy. And that is so important in moments, because life's gonna life. Like it's gonna happen.
Life is gonna life. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the many poisons that this culture doles out, is the belief that if you're a good little person, you will succeed and bad things will not happen to you. And that is such a crock of shit. And it ends up making people feel so bad, because even if they don't realize it, they think there's something I did to fucking make me have cancer, or, you know, make my ceiling fall in or whatever. And even like people in the spiritual community would like, well, it's karma. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Let's don't be so quick to label everything karma.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Because we use, I saw a post today that was like, we use karma for the people we don't like, but we want to give aid to the people we do like.
Yep. And exactly.
That was 12th house star. I love her, but she, that's
who?
exactly
I'm sorry, I missed who you said.
That was from 12th house star. She wrote that this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love her. And it's true. It's not karma for just the people we don't like. Right. It's just happens to all of us. It's going to happen. People are going to pass away. Roofs are going to cave in. What did I this summer? We had no power for 6 days, and then we went 16 days without water. Like, things are going to happen.
Yeah.
I know that my spiritual practices did not obviously save us from having to sit in a hotel room for 6 days or whatever, but not physically, but emotionally it did. You know, we had a great time. We were in the pool every day, and we were trying, and me and my husband were trying to keep it together and stuff like that. It was hard, but there was inner peace base that I could always come back to. And that's what I feel spirituality has done for me in my life. Things happen. It's bad. I react, or maybe I don't react, but I can always come back, and I'm breathing. The trees are here, you know, the wind's blowing, kind of thing. Yeah. And that is one of the most helpful things, I think, for me and other people, hopefully.
And that's where the trust comes in. Mm-hmm. Being able to think, I mean, because for like 40 some odd years, I lived in this. I have no hope. I don't trust myself. I don't trust anything. You know, and then I'm sorry.
Trusting myself was never on my bingo card.
Right.
Ever.
Right. And so what do you do about that? Because you really got to trust yourself. I try to stay away from saying people have to do this or that, but you kind of have to do that.
Self-preservation. I feel like self-preservation is what led me there. I was depressed for a really long time in my life. I'm a former self-harmer. If I could take it out on me, I would. Yeah. And because I wouldn't take it out on anybody else. Right. But I'm going to be here. When I decided I was going to be here, I was going to stop doing any type of attempts. I was going to really be here. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here correctly. I'm not going to be here and be upset all the time and be here and still hate myself and still do all that stuff. Because what is that solving? How is that helping the people who love me? How is that helping myself? I don't want to sit there every night hating everything I did. It's just not how I want to waste my energy anymore. Trusting yourself though, it's hard. We said that already. It's very difficult, but who knows you better than the person who's been with you your whole life? You.
Right.
Who's better for you than you?
Right. And you know what was a panicky moment when I thought to myself, I'm going to spend every second of the rest of my life with myself? I thought, hold on, that should not be the reaction that I should have. I should be like, hot damn, yeah, which is how I am now. And so I'm here to tell people that you can make that change, because I went from that being aghast at that idea, thinking, well, back up the truck of liquor then, because I'm going to need to be numbed for at least 2/3 of this time and sleep for the other part, but then it's really hard, and it takes a leap of faith of like, okay, I don't know how people do this, but they do it, and I can do it too.
Yeah, if someone else can do it, I can do it. And I will tell anybody, if I can start loving myself, if I could start, like you said, this relationship with ourselves is sacred. If that could be seen that way for me, it could be seen that way for everybody. Sorry, she's like, you finished? Like, oh, I'm talking. It could be, we can get there. Baby steps though. It's not going to be, okay, well, today I decided I loved myself and now I'll never have a problem with myself ever again.
No, it's not going to be that. And if you expect it to be that, you're going to get your heart broken real fast.
Fast.
Yeah.
It is a relationship just like everything else is. Just like your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your friends, the relationship with yourself is just something you also have to cultivate. But if you're still sitting there every day, like, I shouldn't have said that and I shouldn't have done this, and start there. Because if that voice was outside of you, you would beat them up. You would not let
Exactly. Yeah. People talk to themselves in ways that they would get so up in somebody else's face if they spoke to them that way. And it's like, dude, pay attention. That's so often what it comes down to, isn't it? Pay attention to what you're doing and what you're saying. And I mean, wake up, if you will, right? Being woke gives such a bad rap. Okay, I'd rather sleep through life. Sorry,
much prefer to sleep through. Yeah, let's go bed rot and not do anything. That's exactly what we should all do.
Makes no sense to me whatsoever.
But paying attention, everything around us is made to distract us. Home, hopefully everyone has a safe place they can be. Not always true, but TV, movies, media, everything we see, it's meant to distract us. It's meant to pull us from ourselves. So it is a kind of strength to be like, no, I am going to pay attention to this. I am going to work on that voice in my head that is that inner critic that shows up out of nowhere. I should not have this relationship with myself, because we would be so mad again if someone said it to us, or if someone said it to one of our friends or something like that. We would be up in arms ready to go. But when it comes to our little relationship with ourselves, sometimes we don't pay attention to how mean we could be to ourselves.
No, we don't. And I'm not a mother. Blessings and big ups to all of you who are. But oh, mamas, speak time to yourself in front of your little girls, because
oh my God, yes.
Oh man. So many women, they don't realize, they think, well, I'm not saying it to her. Well, you are, honey, because you're everything to her. You're everything to her.
I have a personal story to go along with that. I look just like my mother. I look just like my mother. But my entire life, my mother was a Rolling Stone. It's the only way. She was all over the place, and my family was very judgy of it. And they would be like, "You look like her. You look like her," but then they would badmouth her, and then would look at me confused as to why I had self-esteem issues. Right. Well, if you tell me I look just like her, and you tell me I sound like her and I act like her, and then you are demonizing her,
right?
What am I about myself?
Right.
So it's, yes, please be careful, parents. Please be careful of what you say about yourself in front of your kids, but also be careful about what other people say about you in front of your kids.
Absolutely. But it's attention and being intentional, right?
Yeah,
Because how often does somebody you love, I'm not saying you personally, but in someone's life, says something that you're like, ow. And then they're like, oh, I didn't think of that it like that. Well, fucking think about it that way. You know, be intentional. I get so tired of people saying, oh, somebody's too sensitive. Well, maybe you're too insensitive. Maybe you should be a little more careful about the things that you put out to the world, because you're manifesting things all over the place by saying, oh, that'll never happen for you. Well, shut the fuck up, you know?
It'll never happen for you. Well, it's like when people say the truth hurts. Yes, we are going to all find some truths that make us go, ooh, ah, like, ouch.
Right.
But if we know that some truths hurt, why aren't we making the landing a little softer for people?
Right.
There's no reason, like, you should be more, I didn't mean it that way. Well, what did you mean? And why stop and wait until you said what you meant? And that's hard for me too. My temper my temper is epic sometimes, or used to be way worse. But being intentional with what you say saves relationships, saves lives.
It sure does. It sure does. Because it's so easy, and I can only speak to this culture because it's the only one I live in, but it's so easy to make these little bitchy, mean remarks and then be like, what? Mean that? Well, did you not really? Did you really not? Why don't you just really mean what you say then? And we wouldn't be in the situation where everybody's all butthurt all the time. Just, I mean, because it's like people want to be passive aggressive and then not claim their passive aggressivity, you know?
Or they'll say something mean, joking. Well, I mean, usually when I hear a joke, I laugh. So I'm very confused as to how this was a joke, because it doesn't seem like it was.
Right.
And
right.
I'm that kid that was called too sensitive, but like, y'all are mean. Like,
exactly. You're too insensitive. Jesus Christ. That's why the world is in this mess, is people being so insensitive to one another.
Right. We need more sensitivity. Actually, we need the people who cry because they see a pretty flower. We need the people who can say, hey, that was mean and that hurt me, because people that actually care about you, the people that can come to you and be like, that thing you said hurt me in this way. People want to automatically put their wall up to that. Like, oh, tell me I hurt you. No, that person cares about your relationship with them.
That's right. That's right. If they didn't ever want to see you again, they would just be like, well, screw it. I'm not ever going to talk to them again. I don't care
what you said and be like, I mean that. I'm going to go this way.
Right.
So I feel like sensitive people, they are the ones that confront people. They are the ones that try to be like, hey, I don't understand why this is going this way, or why this, like, how do we fix it? And other people just, you know, they put their guards up. Our guards come up really quickly, as you've said.
Right. Now I don't think I'm outing you here. And if I am, I will take it out, but you're neurodivergent as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
As I am. And you're open about that, right? So we can talk about that. Okay. So I'm autistic, and to me, my spirituality and my bond with my guides and my view of myself and my perspective on the world is intrinsically tied up with my autism.
Yes, I agree.
You're nodding. So can you tell me how in your experience that is true?
I feel like, ooh, that's a good question. You come in with the questions. When I found out I was autistic, it was like the biggest push towards self-acceptance ever. It was like, that's why. It's not that something is wrong with me. It's not that I was born wrong.
It's not that I'm a horrible bitch. That was the one that I was like, I'm not a horrible bitch.
We go off and have meltdowns, and that's why. But realizing that sensitivity that comes from the tism, it also being spiritually sensitive, we can feel other people's energies. We can, is that my energy or is that theirs? It's helped me do that more. It's helped me go, are these my feelings that I'm feeling, or did I just absorb somebody again? And I feel like I know between when my autism symptoms are like when I melt down or when I do that, the spiritual side of me goes, okay, that's because you've taken too much of this on, and you've taken too much of that on. It's all a symptom to what's going on the inside. I love being like, I
I
don't
know,
think
me too. Me
I
too.
love it. I'm glad I was able to get diagnosed by my therapist.
Me
I'm so
too.
glad it was something. It's funny, when Noah was diagnosed, I remember going, but he acts the same way I did as a kid. And then
Ding, 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 ding. That's how it happens so often for adults. I see that, especially for women, that
yeah,
it's their children that bring them into
yeah.
realization about this.
That makes all the sense. And all the little sensitive
Right.
things all that stuff. It's like, I personally feel like spirituality and autism kind of sometimes go together. Like,
Right.
the people that can. Have you ever seen that post where the guy saw the skyline of New York one time, and then he was able to paint it? He was autistic.
Yes.
Stuff
Yes.
like that. We are the artists. We are the ones
Right.
that breathe life into this place. We bring meaning to life.
Right.
All the art, like all the writers we like from back in the day, what were they? They were socially awkward, and they were all these things. They were neurodivergent. They were like us.
Right.
Wasn't
Right.
an for it, and it was, they didn't like it back then. But
Right. Well, here's what my spirit guides have revealed to me about this situation, and it's a big part of my life's work, I realize. Prior to civilization, which to me is like meh, I think because we have been humans for like 250,000 years. We've been civilized for 10,000 years. People pretend like that 240,000 years was just hell. I don't think so. I think it was pretty cool. And during that vast majority of the time that we've been alive, my spirit guides revealed to me that autistic people were the ones who were considered to be connections to the divine. And so when a child would be born presenting the very obvious attributes that so often go along with autism, they would be, oh, this kid is going to be put with these other people who are older and have this connection already going on to be schooled, and they will be learned in that. So when it's time for them to take that place in society, they will be ready to do that. Civilization came along and was like, no, they're too weird. They're like, you never know what they're going to say. And they're like, claim to be connected to something. I don't know. We can't really have that.
Yeah, you can't have that.
It's been really all downhill for us since then, until just very recently. So I think this resurgence or whatever of autism, everybody's being diagnosed. I see it so much as like a spiritual awakening, because we're the people who are connected.
We see life different. And
Yeah.
when we're able to vocalize that difference, it helps other people come out of their conditioning. And yeah, we have a resurgence of autistic people, but I mean, euthanization, they got rid of us for a few decades. They got rid of
More
us.
than that. Yeah.
Island. Like they and as we know from history, whenever a group of people is targeted like that, you gotta wonder why. You gotta wonder what do they have in them. It's because we see.
Right.
I feel
right.
That's it. But yeah, you're right. That civilized approach to life is really what messed it all up.
We could all did. I read this really great book called Civilized to Death by Christopher Ryan, and it really put into words a lot of just the gut feelings that I'd had about, like, we have all of these like, oh, it was rough and you only lived like you were born and you fought and you died 10 days later. I mean, it wasn't really like that.
And stuff like that.
Studies of people who have managed, God bless them, to stay untouched by civilization to this point, which they're very, very few and far between at this point. Yeah. People who have studied them, they live really cool lives, and they only work like 3 or 4 hours a day, and they have a lot of fun, and they laugh like constantly. I mean, why wouldn't they? Yeah. And it's like, food is pretty abundant naturally if there's not any law against you picking it. Exactly. Or there's no poison being sprayed on it. It's like it literally grows from trees, y'all. And it's like, I don't understand why this people got this idea. It's like propaganda for civilization,
Yeah,
right? Back
it
then
is.
was so terrible. We don't want to go back there. Do we not really? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Nobody was educated. Well, I'm sorry, we're from the US. Half the people here aren't educated now. Like 40% don't know grade. Like, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they pretend that there's this emphasis on all these things that are supposed to make life better, when
Right.
no, we all intrinsically know what would make our lives better. We're just, like you said, stuck. We have to pay bills, we have to do this, we have to do that, and we sometimes we can't. We
Right.
physically cannot do, and that keeps the soul down. And what
And
do you
it's
do when
illegal to be homeless now. Ah!
you can't even collect rainwater in some states?
You can't collect it in my state, in Colorado. I mean, nature
Crazy.
state, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. They have taken, little by little, they continue to take away what's naturally, rightfully all of ours
Right.
as on this planet. And we let them, because not let them. No, that's wrong, because I'm not going to put the blame on us. We are we're soul crushed. And
Right.
what do? Souls are crushed. We buy, we medicate, self-medicate, we, hey,
Consume.
yeah, we consume. We consume, and we continue to feed their machine
Right.
all the time.
Yep. Yep. Well, maybe we're waking up. I hope we're waking up. Done
Yeah.
anyway. So yeah.
We are in a new location. My phone said the temperature was, I was in the shade and everything. I was like, the temperature is too hot. So here we are. So, like I was saying, I would much rather be spiritually fed, because everything they give us can be taken away. They can take it in a second. That we also found that out during COVID. They could take
Yes.
it from us in a second. They can't take us from us. They can't.
That's right.
And I
That's
think
right.
that is the most important thing. And when you work through that relationship with yourself, and you stop hating yourself, and you stop seeing yourself the way they want you to, you start to say, no, this is mine, and this, you can't take this from me.
And
And I
that's
think that's really
empowering, right?
powerful.
That's empowering your magical
Yeah.
self right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we close, because we've just had, I could talk to you all day long, and we're going to do Reiki after this, but I do want to ask you, because I ask all of my guests, what is magic, Jazmine?
What is magic? You, me.
Oh.
I think everything can be magic. Beethoven writing his first symphony, the first time Picasso did his brushstroke, lightning in a bottle kind of moments. I think all of this is magic. We are magic. Life is magic. It's all of us. It's everything. It's everything about us.
So is it accessible to everybody?
Hmm?
Is it accessible to everybody?
Yes,
So you don't
absolutely.
have to be a high priestess or a trained this or that, or
No, of course there are, when you go down certain practices, there are closed practices, of course, but the magic of life, the magic of waking up, and no, that's for all of us. It's inherently our birthright. Magic is our birthright.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll say. What is magic? Magic is our birthright.
Yeah.
All of us,
I love
whatever
that.
form that takes. Because
I love
we're all
that.
different.
And I love you. How can people find you, Jazmine? Because people are going to want to be in contact with you and find your videos and work with you after seeing this. So how can they do that?
I am on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. It's all Witchy Adams. On TikTok and Instagram, it's 2 Y's instead of 1, so that's not a mistake.
And Adams is spelt not the regular Adams too, right? Or
Adams is spelled like the Adams family.
That's
so
2 D's, right?
AMS, yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's consistent across all platforms.
That is consistent across all platforms, yes.
Okay, great. And you're available for readings like I got from you?
Yes, I'm available for readings, and I also am doing Reiki again. Those are the only 2 services I have right now. As I, you saw, there's kids and
Yeah.
So those are the 2 I have time for right now.
Okay, awesome. And they can find you there on social media and
just message me.
Contact you that way. That's cool.
My inbox is open. It's not one of those you have to go 50 places. I'm right there.
Okay.
I want to thank you for wanting me to come on your podcast. Like I said, the day you told me, I was like, I'm gonna cry. It's like, beautiful to be seen by people that I see as beautiful, empowering people. And I just want to say this was an honor to be included, for real. So that was not to the people, just to you. Thank you. Seriously.
Thank
You have no
you, my
idea.
darling.
Maybe we'll talk about it later, but you have no idea what you've done for me by
Well,
inviting me
thank
on this.
you. I really, really appreciate you being here. And I think this is a beautiful conversation. It's going to be a great episode. So I look forward to being out. And so that was Jazmine. Aren't you a fan now? It warms my heart to talk with her. She's a lovely person. Next week, speaking of lovely people, I have a guest named Joe Elliott. He's a little out of the norm of what we do here. He's not necessarily known as a spiritual influencer, spiritual type personality, but I do know him from TikTok. He's very, very popular there because he's just so engaging and optimistic and uplifting. That's why I became a fan of him. He has helped me empower my magical self with his fun videos. He's a musician also, but that's not even really like the main thing that he is known for on his own TikTok, oddly enough. He goes to visit his mom and she's funny and he's just an all around great guy. And he's known as Brother Man Joe on TikTok. So if you want to look for him and enjoy his presence leading up to next week, I advise you to do so because he's a real gem and it's a great talk. So that is it for today. So I'll see you back here next week to talk to Brother Man Joe, aka Joe Elliott, from the band Run with Patience. And I hope you have a great week. Enjoy the full moon. It's going to be big and it's going to be a little bit loud. So take care of yourself. Love you. Bye.